Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in today to the Temple Hayes podcast. We are on fire for life over here, I tell you. Coming to you today all over the world, but living here in Santa Barbara, California. And I've got this wonderful gentleman, Tom Lane from Providence, Rhode Island. And one of the things I like to say is we're featured live either now time, you're watching us on social, but if you're in other countries and other time zones, we still love getting the comments from you. And I'll see to Tom's publicist if there's anything he needs to know or anything you want him to know about you. But we love the engagement, which is the main reason that we do the live is because we like to connect with you. So don't hesitate to get involved with us and ask whatever you would like. Tom has a new book called The Karma Factor. And I know the audience that's been with me for many years, and we love talking about karma. And I look forward to hearing about this wonderful novel and full of rich universal truths, Tom, that you have accomplished. But
Thank you.
big breath before we get into all of that. Um, I was so curious when I read about you and researched everything that you've been doing with your life. And I love, certainly, you're a musician, you write music, you write poetry. We're going to post one of your recent poems
Oh,
online
thank you.
for all of you to be able to download and to share. But you got involved with the homeless, and tell me, how did that come about?
Well, where things begin is always tricky stuff because it always relates to something earlier and earlier. I'll
Yes.
talk about my family. Was Harvard, Yale, PhDs, Stanford. My mom, PhD from Columbia. I mean, it was towering minds. And then there was me. And I as
I
I like
love
to
that.
I like to say that I didn't hear just a different drummer. I heard an entirely different orchestra.
Mhm.
And but one of the wonderful things about particularly my mother, she was a relentless activist. Every cause that came down, she'd be marching for peace. She'd be writing letters to prisoners. She went to Selma, all kinds of stories, but she was
Oh,
constantly,
she was at the Selma March, huh?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And actually, I ran into her on the march in Washington when I was a child. I ended up anyway. That's a whole nother story. But anyway, she was very. I was very impressed with her, and I didn't know the words for it back then. Her selflessness, her concern for people who are less fortunate, and she started working at a soup kitchen. This is in the '90s, and when she was in her '70s, I believe, and she decided she was a very curious person, and that when she'd meet a guest and she'd start talking to them, she would sort of feel the stories inside, you know,
Mhm.
that was percolating, and they would just wear a hat or just some little detail, and she would go, "Oh, I got to interview this person." She, very low tech, a trait that I have inherited. She would take that person into a with a little microphone, a little recorder, and record their stories. And she got a whole bunch of them, teachers, military people, um, politicians, and she put a manuscript together called Dinner at Six Voices from the Soup Kitchen. She had also published other small novels based in sort of academia, but her publisher didn't want to publish this. And I read those stories, and I swear I was out in Los Angeles at that point. These characters were following me around, just saying, characters from the book. Their stories resonated so deeply with me. I came home and I said, "Mom, we got to do something with this." So I convinced her that we would not do a commercial venture. We would print it ourselves and then give it to soup kitchens so that they could resell it and they would take the money. My
Oh
mom
my
didn't
gosh,
my
what a
mom didn't
brilliant idea.
Well, it worked. My mother didn't want a dime, and I was just like Tommy Appleseed with her book, and I'd find out about a shelter, or a soup kitchen, call them up, tell them about the book. load up my car, drive over there, dump them off. There was no charge, and it just caught on. We had probably 100 different organizations through the next sort of 15, 20 years, raised tens of thousands of dollars, had 6 or 7 printings. And so when and I was just like, oh, I get to be the messenger. It's not my ego out there. And it was just a blessing for me. When she departed, which is about 10 years ago now, there was some money from my grandparents. And so I established the Helen Hudson Foundation, which is her pen name. Her actual name was Helen Lane. And so we've been doing that with the book, getting involved with other soup kitchens and other organizations. And it's just been a blessing. And that's the short story.
We don't need a short story. We have all the time you want. So I typed this in. Our producer's doing a lot of multitasking, and I just went ahead and put that in Helen Hudson Foundation. Now, is that the website too, the URL, or if they
Yes,
Google, it'll take them where they need to go, right?
HelenHudsonFoundation.org will get you there. Um,
Okay.
it's got that program. I've branched out because there's so many causes right now that you want to do them all. So I'm also doing just sending donations to art groups and ecological groups and sanctuary. There's an animal
Yes.
sanctuary which I adore.
We're two peas in a pod right
Ah,
there, right?
okay,
We're two peas in a pod. It's sounding very familiar.
yeah.
I just want to give a little shout out to my goddaughter today. She's so precious. She watches these shows, and
Oh, cool.
she's 8, and she's a learned shamanic practitioner, and
Wow.
she's just a whole connection on the earth. So hello, dear Miracle from Temple and Tom today.
Yeah,
So,
indeed.
good for you. So, I'd like to know a little bit more as far as with your mom, Helen. Does the book still exist? Is this something we could present here in
Yep.
California?
I am down to about maybe 150 books. If there's a need, it is written years ago, so it has references to things that aren't existing anymore in terms of policies and politics, et cetera.
Right,
But I can always get more printed. Everybody tells me that even those things have changed. The heart thing, the kind of stories, the similarity of a person who had one hardship and then another hardship and then
right.
another hardship, and they just bottomed out. And
Mm,
I'll send you so you can read it. I'll say there's 2 sentences there that says everything for me about what she
okay.
captured. And this is from the homeless people. Tell them that we're not bad people. Tell them that we want to work. I get chills when I say that.
Oh, it just brings you
It's just,
it brings you to tears,
yeah,
and it's that desensitizing energy
yeah.
of big assumptions are made, when you see someone and there's this judgment or they don't care or they like to be lazy or one
Oh,
went around for a long time that it's a scam. They stand out there. Well, who would put themselves through that much humility as acting a part? Well,
yeah,
so I'm just curious, is there an so yes, get my information from Dia if you would please, and send
sure.
me a couple of the books. I would
Uh,
like that. And then my 501(c)(3) is Global Peace Workers. So I
the,
would like to make a donation to that group, to the Helen Hudson Foundation as well.
the,
And
the, the one other thing I just want to mention that the organization I've done most work with is called the Rhode Island Coalition to End Homelessness. And
uh,
what they have is what they now call the Voices of of Homelessness. They have
mhm,
speakers, formerly homeless people, that for a while I was working with them, and then I've turned them over, that go out and they talk in schools and churches and to statesmen. And the power of story is so powerful,
it
is so
is.
important that I have a dream, and maybe we'll talk about it later, of opening a school that teaches people how to tell stories on every issue, on any issue, LGBTQ, Black um, Black Lives Matter, all the different, get them so they can articulate
Hmm.
and do a real, and then spread the word and just have a place where everybody can learn to amp up their own stories about that particular demographic and get people involved.
I think that's a beautiful idea.
We'll see
Yeah,
if, yeah.
we'll need to talk more.
Okay.
I'll get your info from Dia, and you get mine, and because I have some more ideas too
Yeah.
of bringing some real radical change to this country. Because goodness knows we certainly need leaders
Yeah.
beyond their own self-focusedness. Is that a word? It would be in South Carolina, focusedness. Is that a
It's
word?
a word. I just added it to my
You
vocabulary.
understood.
So
Okay, so it works for you. But I just think that's so exciting. And when you first started out, you described how so many people in your family were different or did
yeah, right.
degrees. But here you are, you're living it.
Yeah.
You're carrying on the tree of your mom. I mean, that's a huge sacred story right there. That's beautiful. So
It
good
it
for
is.
you. And
Well, thank you.
it would be great to just explore, some further ideas about that. But today also we're talking about the karma factor.
Mm,
And how did you 'cause it's a commitment to say, "I'm gonna write a book," or for a book to pick up
mm,
the phone and call you and say, "Will you
hmm.
write me?" It's a big commitment.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Again, where did it begin? Um,
Wherever you want.
I think, aside from being sort of an outsider in my own family, um, I mean, there was plenty of threads that connected us. I was way into sports. I was a total jock, total kid, mischievous, spitballs and the whole thing. And and then I crashed as I hit the world, as it really is, a little bit later. And the one thing that salvaged me, that switched all this around, was The Hobbit, the book by Tolkien. And my
Mm,
fourth grade teacher read it out loud to us. And all of a sudden, I was introduced to a whole nother kind of hero, right? A
mhm.
little guy with hairy toes who was courageous without being macho or whatever.
Mhm.
And the whole world of fantasy. And that got me moving in that direction, and also as a possible writer. Um, my uncle, I don't know if you ever heard of the Encyclopedia Brown series.
Mm-mm.
Okay, that was my uncle. And so that kind of morphed into spirituality, getting into Asian thought and Yogananda and past lifetimes. And I had an experience in the later teens. I was living in Berkeley, California, and I had one of those moments that you read about in those kind of spiritual books, of like, all of a sudden it all came together
Mhm.
in just a huge way. And it ruined me for a normal life, and it saved me from a normal life. You
Wow.
know,
Good way of
I
putting it. Good way of putting it. What did it show up like, Tom? Was it a dream? Was it a
no,
knowing, or
it,
what was it like?
it would really be hard, except it. I just felt whole. I felt
Mm,
realized. I felt I could die, live or die. It didn't matter. It was one of those kind of things. And I knew I would lose it. I knew it would not be consistent. So, but that became my North Star.
mhm.
Um, and I, struggled to find ways to stabilize it, and not it's just the whole sense of feeling whole. And so while I'm working on that, I am answering your question. Um, I'm also loving football and action adventures and mystery and thrillers. And so these two sides, this thing that was really above the fray, and this is right down in the gritty, nitty gritty of it all. I was looking for something that I could write about because I started getting into the arts and I was a folk singer and I had almost record deals. And I had songs published when I was 15 years old that I thought were going to have an easy way into the career. It didn't happen.
Mhm.
But when I came across the Akashic Records, which is
Oh, yeah.
an amazing thing in of
Uh-huh.
itself, at that point, in simplicity, it is a database of past lifetimes, has all the incarnations, etc. But I started thinking about that. It was so rich. I started thinking about, well, what if that served as a profile for a cop about a criminal? And all of a sudden, you had access that went back earlier,
Oh
where you
my
could
gosh.
actually pick
Yes.
up what is the spiritual thing they were caught in, why this person keeps repeating his same criminal activity through time.
Mhm.
You could find where it started if you had this database of past lives.
I love
And
that.
so, well, I was flipped out. So I was trying to marry these two things together. Now I've learned a lot more about Akashic Records, having, you know, having done some readings. Um, but that was the impetus for these two vectors, the serial killer cop versus this is that. It has a romance in it, but it's really good versus ignorance, we'll say. And what I was wanting, and karma is really about accountability
Mhm.
and um, how to get someone to be accountable in a way that their karma changes so that when they come back again, if one believes in past lifetimes, they won't just repeat, they won't just go out and kill people again or whatever. They will have changed. And if we can, and the premise is if we can tip the balance, get enough of the leaders, you were talking about leadership before, the poor state of leaders,
Right. Right.
safe, so they could actually be who they really are and be as big and wonderful and giving and loving as they could possibly be, have them become leaders in this world, then we would stand a much better chance of getting through this crisis thing. Anyway,
No,
that's why this book got
listen,
born.
it's so powerful, you know, what you're talking about. And, as we said before we started the show, you can go in any direction that you want. But it is fascinating because, see, I felt like I showed up in life being metaphysical. I didn't, like, start reading the Daily Word or
Yeah, right.
Signs of Mine and go, "Oh, I think I, connect with this." I was glad to find it, don't get me wrong, I was glad to because then I didn't feel like I was the only one.
Yeah,
But I've always lived in the world and not of the world,
right.
that way. But when I started out, as I've told people through the years, as a speaker, teacher, minister, trying not to even be public for many years. I try to hide, but like you and I said, well, that didn't work for either one of us. But
Yeah.
I would be so self-righteous, change your thinking, change your life, change your thinking, change your life. And it was very impressive stuff. And it helped me a lot. And I realized that wasn't just it because I was where you were introduced and delved deeply into Akashic records. I was introduced and dug deeply into shamanism. So I started then seeing how we have all these undercurrents of energy
Yeah,
that more often than not, they're making the choices or they are attracting. And
yeah,
so we buy into this one size fits all, the law of attraction and stuff. And trust me, I know it works, it works, and I believe in it. But I also know that there's other layers that
yeah.
aren't
Oh,
visual, that are
oh,
not just the words that come out of your mouth or that you're a keen listener and you took the listening steps. There's so much more to the digging deeper
uh,
and to really embrace your shadow and your light. And I love that you took the path of the Akashic records because if I, for example, did soul retrieval on a criminal, I am confident, like you're saying, I would see imagery from a
Yep.
past life
Yep.
where they had been, maybe not in this one. Everybody goes, "Oh, he was such a good boy. We saw no signs, nothing coming," because they don't see the
That's a
world.
s-
But they,
that's a snapshot.
that's
That's a
a
snapshot.
human trained, commercialized ownership of humanity, which is part of what's got us in this mess in the first place. You know, because we're just programmed. It's only what you see. You only have this one life. You get a degree or you don't get one, and you do the best you can, and then you're out. No, you've been here many, many times, but I love the idea of what you're bringing home. That if we could really have trained people work with a lot of these folks, they would never return. I mean, they
Right.
would transform
Right.
to who they're really meant to be.
Yeah.
Woo! You got me all fired up. I guess it's a good thing we're called on fire for life because I feel on fire right now. It's like, let's go.
I love what you just said. And I had 20 different things firing off, and I went, oh, no, I can't. And so, and I wish there was something that would, write them down for me, because they're gone. I don't even remember what they were, except that the one thing that is hard to, I mean, I never wanted with the rock and roll thing. I mean, I had almost record deals, whatever, but I could feel myself. I don't like the arena. I don't like
Yeah,
that field of awareness. I don't like that. And I just couldn't find groups. And part of it is that I learned this later, that I don't want to have identities that are not from the most deepest place
yeah,
for me. And they're not even identities. I don't even like to say I'm a writer. I like to say I am.
yeah,
And I do this and this and this and this.
yeah.
And there's a lot of spiritual people that are really, they're egocentric in terms of I am a this, I'm a light sharer, and it's
Right,
cluttered with that stuff.
right.
And I would say I'm an artist. If anything, I create, and I'd rather be a poet than somebody who's not paying so much attention to being authentic. Anyway, I
Yeah.
love what you were saying.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah, and I would love for more people to understand the importance of knowing this is not the only time around. It explains a lot. It
it
helps you
does.
integrate a lot.
It
It
does.
helps you embrace a lot. And you start to notice it like years ago as a teenager.
Yeah.
Well, it's not been that many years, but a few years ago, I got all these relationships with people from India. And I
Really.
went, "It's my karma."
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it just had to be because it's like they were just people were friendships were showing up, connections
Yeah.
were showing up. And and so when you know those things
Yeah.
about yourself, there's a different level of safety.
Yeah.
There's a level of I love that you use the word whole.
Yeah.
There's a level of feeling wholeness because you then realize that we don't live in this US of America. It's not a us and then there's the planet. It's a we.
Yeah. Totally.
It's a
Yeah.
we.
Well, one of the things that makes it hard to understand karma is that the bad guys seem to get away with stuff. They get more
Mhm.
riches and they win this thing and they get acknowledged by society and they love them.
They
Um,
become more popular
they
every
become,
time they
yeah,
go
right.
before a court. Yeah,
Yeah, right.
people
And
like that.
and
Yeah.
and what is not clear is that this is a this is one postage stamp in an
Mhm.
album of
Yeah.
stamps. And so
Mhm.
you can't say, because next lifetime or at some point this stuff will catch up. It always does. The
Yeah.
karma will.
Yeah.
And you may not see it in this lifetime, but you shouldn't be depressed by the bad guys winning, because they'll get theirs.
Yeah.
Everybody gets theirs. And that's not punishment. That's just encouragement to grow, you
Yeah.
know,
It's just
and
the
to be,
cause and effect, isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah.
Um, you make an interesting point. I trained a student who went on and made up all this stuff about me, and it was very painful and so unnecessary. That example, or an example where someone does something dishonest or whatever,
Mm.
I would have that learned behavior response, Tom, to say, well, you know what? Look out for their karma, right? They got their karma coming. But one day I had an epiphany and
Mm.
and a big layer of humility that said, who's to say I'm not paying back mine to them?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah,
You never know, right? Because
yeah.
it's so infinite, what we're talking about.
And there's so
Um,
much unknown. It's
yeah,
like, you know, we're surrounded by mystery. I mean,
right.
totally engulfed by mystery, and then we make our little appearance as a child. We have these years we walk around, and then we go back into the mystery. And so I have no problem saying, I don't know. Because
Yep.
I say that about 99% of the time.
I
There are a couple
know.
things I know, and even those are suspect, but it's okay. It really is okay.
I'm with you. Those are two powerful three words. I don't know.
Yeah,
No,
right.
I
Right.
don't know. What was with the book that you wrote? How long did it take you to write it?
The book. I'll give you the story of the book, which was this would be in 1990s. I wrote a novella, which I called the Karma Files, kind of a spin-off from what was it, the X Files, the
Yes.
TV show.
Yeah.
And it was about Uncle Early, which is the character. He was like a Columbo.
I love his
Yeah,
name,
he
Uncle
was this
Early.
Uncle Early. Well, of course, in the character in the book is James Early, but this was the predecessor. He was a rain-coated, grumpy kind of like, "What are you, a spiritual ham sandwich or what?" He was like, and I gave it to. So I had written a book called The Artists Manifesto, which was a call to arms for the artists to stop being pushed around by big business and do your thing. And they were interested in that. And then I gave uh, this producer friend of mine who liked that book this novella, and she went flippy over it. She went and talked to Roseanne Barr, who they were friends. Remember Roseanne Barr?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, and so they went, "Oh God, we'll do this. This is a movie. This is a TV show. This is this or that." So I had him, and then I signed a deal with the novella. I didn't have the novel. I hadn't written the book.
Mm,
And then I won't 27 years worth of. I wrote the book, and then I rewrote it, and then I wrote it again. Then I thought we are gonna have the deal. We got huge names attached. Huge names fell apart. The budget was the budget of a small country. On and on in Hollywood. And they said everyone told me, if you don't like the heat, get out of the kitchen. I don't like the heat, but I'm staying in the kitchen. It was too important to me. The book is less fiction than you might first think.
I had a feeling, yes.
Yeah. So anyway, so finally I wrote the book, and this was 20 years ago or something. And then it's been through all these various changes. And I kept thinking, okay, the movie's going to happen. I don't have to produce. I don't have to go out there and sell my wares. It's going to happen. And of course, it didn't, because I had
Mhm.
so much to learn in just what you're talking about, coming out about, like, I have been living a very happy. I love my solitude. I love being able to sort of in control of when I see people and when I don't, and I could do all that writing and music and stuff, painting, working on the Helen Hudson Foundation. And then the clarion call came, and we all heard it. It's like,
Mhm.
get the hell out there,
Yeah.
do it, take your next step. And I talked to some some mediums and intuits that I work with, and they said, "Yeah, it's time. It's time."
Mm.
So I gathered up some resources and started and got the book printed, got it self-published, although it's a hybrid. It works
Yes.
with another thing, and ran into Dia, thank God. And it's, I said to my wife, it's like how the book does is one thing. How I do with the book is a whole other thing. And that's really,
Wow.
if I
Mm.
work on that, take all the punches in the gut and the lack of this or that, or someone who hates the book, or take all of that and be able to deal with it, respond to it in a beautiful way, go through the agony, but then have a flower at some point. Then I can't lose. There's no way I can lose if that's the way I go about it. So
Mhm.
that was the way I was able to sort of push myself out. But then, of course, I meet people like you and Dia and whatever, and it's joyful, and it's like
Yeah.
fantastic.
Oh, I love that. Well, I'm grateful that you decided to bring it out, and it does. I mean, a book, it continues to unfold.
Hmm.
Um, and then times are different. I look at some of my older writings with the CD player and you know
Yeah, right.
the different things that are, but the core,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it remains that we're working with human beings.
Do you
And
have books? If I may turn this
uh-huh,
around,
yeah.
could you tell me about you as a
Yeah.
writer?
Uh, yes, I can give it to you in a short form.
Okay.
The first book I wrote, I did it just for the nonprofit that I was founding, and it was about the movement called Life Rights and my life story between gay and religiosity and my family disowning me, many
Oh,
members, and I
oh,
was told I was going to hell at 13 and
oh,
blah blah blah. So I've always had these stories inside me of now being able to use those stories like you.
yeah.
We have the story, we're born, but then we have things happen around us, to us, hopefully through us,
Mm,
so that then we use these stories to pass them on to others in
yeah.
a positive way, not in an anger or the violent way, but in a positive light. And so I created this little book. Everybody has the right to be you.
Oh, I'm
And
gonna write that. Can I
you
get it
know,
online or
yeah, yeah, on
ever?
my website, the right to be you. And so that's what the 501c3 does is like there was this tribe in Kenya and they were starting to give up hope. Does God exist? Does anybody hear us? We're starving. And
Mm,
so we give to things like that. But
right.
that was the first one. And then I was contacted by a publisher to ask me to write How to Speak Unity. So I did that. But the book that I feel like is it's not a memoir, but it does have a lot of me in it, is When Did You Die? 8 steps to stop dying every
That's
day and
like a
start
Zen
waking
koan.
up. Exactly.
It's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
what did you look what was your face like before you were born? It's that
Exactly. When did you give up? When have you, staying in a marriage that doesn't fit you? When are you in a job that you hate? When did you die? And of course, it's all talking about energy. And the
sure.
publisher told me that, the name of the book was going to really hurt the book. And I said, well, that's what I was told in meditation, that had to be the name. And so that's what I'm going with. The next book was Being a Difference Maker. And,
Geez. So you have 4 books?
mhm, yeah, but, and like you were saying, the I am, the
Yeah.
I am,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
so it's like, oh, what I really am is a difference maker,
Yeah.
and it could just mean that I'm holding a positive attitude for the day when the rest of the news isn't so positive, or it could be a simple act, or it could actually be doing things like you're doing,
Yeah.
like And I'm like you, if everybody would just do a little something,
Yeah.
nobody would have to do anything.
Uh,
If everybody would just
yeah.
give $1 to something,
Yeah.
it'd
Right.
be almost $8 billion. If
Yeah.
everybody would do a little something,
Oh, it's so
um,
true.
instead of this, it's a me
Yeah.
mentality,
Yeah.
and I want to put my name on all the buildings in the world,
Yeah.
rather than will there be a world?
Yeah. Really.
Will there be a world? But one of the things you said, and I'm going to say this, and then back to you. Um,
Please.
Is for me, it's always been about I'd rather live the book than write it. I'm more interested in
Yeah.
living the book I'm writing
Yeah.
than the book I have written, and that's an everyday task. It really is
Oh, I totally.
an everyday task. Well, how long has the Karma Factor been out? I know I got a copy. I was like, "Wow,
It's been
beautiful."
about a year. Um,
Okay,
and we're just getting started. Uh, we
good.
both feel, and I've felt that because it's a tweener, it's spirit. They don't know. It's metaphysical thriller.
Yeah,
Thriller. Everybody's good with that. Metaphysical. I don't want to hear about that. And the metaphysical. I don't want to have a serial killer in that. Read about that. So we think.
I'm so
We,
surprised. I mean,
well,
that doesn't make
Dee and I
sense
are
to me.
really surprised.
Yeah.
We don't quite know what that is, but so I'm working on the screenplay now. But I wanted to go back, if this is okay, to a couple of things you said. You sparked me on these things.
Oh, we're
One is
sparking each other.
what you were talking about is, which I've come to really love, is art as service, you
Yeah.
know, and that service thing, that bodhisattva thing, whatever, however you want to frame it, is beautiful to me, and I really would like to live according to that thing. And you were talking about if everybody did just a little more, and my little metaphor on that is, it's an all hands on deck, but there are a billion different decks and different
Mhm.
ways of doing that.
Mhm.
So it might be wave to your postman when you've never smiled at him, and it might be
Right.
go out there with a sign. It's just do something more, and the things that have really helped me grow most in terms of application is sort of a quest for intimacy.
Mhm.
Intimacy with myself, with my soulmate who I have live with, and even causes. It's it's that that whole model of unconditional love, and having that as a north star. Things show up in a hurry when you're living with someone, and they
Yeah.
that's where the rubber meets the road for me. And I have found that I've learned more from these relationships that I'm invested in, including causes, including all that kind of stuff, has helped me grow more than, I mean, I read all, the various wise people, and I get tremendous from them, but it's that practical that you were talking about, which
Mhm.
is where I say something which wasn't really right thing to say, and then I have to be responsible, and that's the growth in there. And I sort of wanted to go back over that area.
Well, I love that you are talking about karma and that you're doing it through a metaphysical thriller
Yeah.
because you're going to reach a lot of the people that may not tune into me because I talk about spirituality and
Mm.
don't be mad at God. You have free will and choice. And,
Yeah.
it's not really God's fault that you took the top off the bottle, went to the store, bought the bottle, consumed the bottle, and then got mad because you're drunk. I mean,
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
but you can reach people that we can all reach people that the other one may not be able to reach. And I just love that. And I thank you for taking this on. And it really, I love your idea, but I would love to see it happen.
Well, it will.
Like to have
There.
this registrar that has all the information and data on it. I don't think we're too far from that, Tom.
Right. Well, the Akashic
I
Records
feel like
is.
I'm interviewing Tom Brokaw. How you doing, Tom? Tune in. Tune in, Tom.
Yeah, he could learn a few things from you. I'll tell you. Yeah, as in all things, I've learned to be patient. I have to be
Mhm,
patient. At the same time, seize opportunities when they're there. And with the book, it's been 27 years already.
mhm.
So if it's another whatever, but all I can do is do the quality of the work and the quality of the people that I associate with, which is, they're both coming along. They're both things that I'm getting better at, and I believe in the book, and
Yeah.
that nothing will change that ever if it never sells another copy.
Well,
So
it will.
it
We
will.
know it will.
Yeah, we
We
do.
know it
We do.
will. But
We
yeah,
do.
I hear you. It's a dedication to the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, I would love to see it become a movie also.
I'll keep you apprised. There's motion. I
Good.
mean, we've almost had it done a few times with huge names,
Mhm.
really Oscar-winning type people and stuff, and it broke down. And one can only think it's still waiting for the right ensemble of people that will not make it into a cutesy, hokey, whatever thing, and it's just authentic and it's a real story and real people.
Yeah,
And
and we
maybe it's
can't
just
really
right.
count we can't really count the almost 4 years. I mean, on one level related to success or not, or the
Exactly.
success of the movie, because we had the COVID and, then
Yeah.
we had writers strikes and,
Yeah.
a couple times, so well,
Yeah.
that's great. Well, I'm gonna hold that for you and my mastermind awareness that
Thank you.
that will unfold because I'd love to see that for you. That
Thank
would
you.
just be
Thank you.
absolutely, fantastic.
I'm working on the screenplay now as we speak.
Mhm, great. What is your favorite part of the book, or are there certain aspects of the book that you would like to
Hmm.
speak about that without giving the whole thing away?
There's I that was one of the things that I thought my opinion, what scenes were important to me.
Mhm,
There are a bunch of them, but one of them is the cop. It starts out with a cop who's who's losing his mind. He's being inundated. We find out later it's past stuff, and he's being held up as this great successful cop. He's miserable. He's suicidal. He wants to take himself out. He sets up a situation where they're going and he sort of starts poking fun at a guy who's trigger happy. He's going, okay, do it. The guy fires, feathers go up from the pillow where the AK-47 is hidden, and the bullets disappear. All of a sudden, in a canyon, in a desolate canyon in New Mexico, you see the bullets go,
wow.
and then he and his partner, when they sort of have this blink out moment, and then they look at each, he says, what happened there? Where'd those bullets go? And they turn and they look at each other and they go into hysterical laughter just because they're, it's just nuts what's happened here. And so James Early, who's the cop, he is now confronted with something that I am confronted with, and I think everyone is. What do I do with this experience? How is this even possible? Whereas his partner says, we don't want to discuss it. We're moving on, forget about it. And my man, this detective, goes, no, I've been saying there's something that I have to find out. And instead of retreating, he takes the hard path about, okay, I'm going to find out one way or another why this happened to me and what I need to do if I've
Mm,
been given this. And so that's a pivotal, the, what do they call it? I can't remember. McKee has a name for this incident that launches the show. And
mhm.
so it's just the difference how these two men responded to that moment. One denial, one like, okay, bring it on. I don't know where this is going to lead me, but I got to do something. And I would like that to be part of the to take the difficult path when it feels not for the difficulty, but for the righteousness of it, so to speak,
Right. Right. Yeah.
And so you have just been given an opening into a whole nother thing. Go walk through that door. Have the, not just the courage, but the trust in life itself that will allow you to go into that space of the unknown where everything else is sort of formulated before and conditioned mind, all that stuff. And if there was a central message is take those leaps. If there's something wrong, which there's something very wrong with his mind, go after it, understand it, bring it in, befriend it. And he does. And then all of a sudden he's into this whole other thing.
Absolutely. One of our viewers, Christine, is tuning in, and she said she'd love to see you turn your book into an audio book. Is that in
Uh,
the works?
we've talked about it. Yeah.
Okay,
It isn't there
good.
yet, but it will be.
Yeah. Well, good. Yeah.
It's on Kindle.
Okay. Well,
Yep.
through Kindle, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Wow. What's so fun for me is all the similarities that you and I have about some things. I'm like,
Totally.
what? I mean,
Yeah,
aren't you
really.
surprised too? I'm like, whoa.
I am. And
You know?
your capacity to listen and understand is what allows me to orate so
Mhm.
freely with
Mhm.
you. And
Well, go
that's an
ahead.
amazing
Excuse me.
skill.
Well,
Just being a great listener speaks volumes about the work you've done.
I was, I was convinced that the only thing that was keeping me from Super Soul Sunday was that I hadn't finished the book. And so I made it my life commitment to finish this book. When did you die? And
Yeah.
as you know, it's a real big commitment,
Yeah, it is.
especially when you have, six more multi-dimensional aspects of your life
Yeah.
going on. But yeah, so I had to like you said, get into it and get over it.
Yeah, right.
And had these thoughts and expectations, and it's like, whoa. But I'm like you. I am not giving up on it, at all.
Oh, never.
In whatever package it is, or whatever, because it's the life work,
It is.
and now things are measured by how many views a person has, and as we know, that's a small window to what success is,
Yeah.
or difference that something has made. And in your line of work, more often than not, the difference that was made, you don't ever hear about.
We don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I just heard from, there was a program I started from the Hudson Foundation, which was a little bit like, the microloans, the
Uh
guy in
huh.
India who had those little things.
Yeah.
So I had for uh, underprivileged minorities, kids that were in a class about how to fix windows. Providence is full of old houses that have
Yeah.
windows with
Yeah.
ropes and stuff, and nobody knows how to fix them. So this organization put together a class where they would invite these kids to come and learn, and then hopefully they'd have skills that they could make some money. And so I brought up what I call the Leadership Opportunity Fund, which was this little, whereby the Hudson Foundation would give them some money so they could then start their own business. They would then eventually pay it back, no interest, and that would fund the next person,
Oh my
the next
God.
group. Oh, it was great. And I just found out that there were three people. The one had already fully paid back the money. The second one was in business putting out, and they just got a third. So it made a difference. These kids now have, businesses that are, anyway, it was a marvelous moment for me.
And you're being modest, and that's a good thing. But yet, the ripple effect,
Yeah.
because if we were future seers and we could have seen what could have happened
Right.
had they not encountered the opportunity,
Yeah.
what road they would have gone down,
Yeah. Yeah.
is Lane your real name?
Yeah. Last name. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're here to chart a course for a new lane for somebody else on the
Yeah.
journey. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing.
It's it's a wonderful life.
Mhm.
The Jimmy Stewart movie. That what would
Oh,
if he
yeah.
had done all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm having that kind of moment right now of
Mm.
just thinking of and it's helping me hear that as well. That
Yeah.
it's just very on one level it's not possible to measure the ripple effect of what
Yeah.
occurs, you know. And
Yeah.
you've got me all fired up to look at what other ways I can do something better. And I was I lived many years in Florida, um,
Mm.
and on St. Pete Beach, and I was walking the beach, and some friends were visiting me from North Carolina, and they're used to me. So we're walking the beach, and on this particular day, the tide had come way up that morning before the night, and washed up all the conch fritters, and they couldn't get back out to sea. They were
Oh.
so far up that they were smothering from the sand, and they were dying, and birds were flying in. And
Oh God. Yeah.
I said, I know you need to eat, but we're not going to make it easy for you. So I just said to my friends, I said, maybe you want to go back, but I need to do this. And so I'm picking up a handful, and I take my hat off, and I'm putting the conch fritters and putting them back in the water and everything. And so
Oh, good for you.
this man, and I look, and then they start doing it. And this man comes up to me and he goes, what are you, if you don't mind, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm saving these conch fritters because they came up and they can't get back. And he went, oh, okay, I see. And he walked a little ways, and then he came back and he said, I just want to say you're a good person." And I said, I appreciate that, but I see it different. I think it's my responsibility. I don't think of it as a matter of being a good person or
Right.
not. I happen to be here. This is the need that's in front of me, and I'm saying yes to it. And in a little while, I looked down the ocean, and there he was, and he was doing the same.
Yeah. Oh, that's a beautiful story.
I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
So what I love, and this is what I want to say to our audience, is like Tom, is use the innovativeness and the creativity juices that go through you, and think about these kind of simple, great local ideas. I mean, what I would like to do, Tom, is talk to the head of education of the world, or whatever that is,
Yeah.
and convince them that all students that are studying, that they have to go into the local communities, recognize the top 5 issues, and come up with viable, innovative ideas in order to challenge them. And I think that ought to be part of their master program.
Do you have that written up?
I can
That
put it written up really, really quick.
I do. Send it to me because I'm always brainstorming off stuff. And even if I
Okay.
go this piece right here, what if, and then go off on that. I mean, yeah, there's just so much work to do, and I am so inspired by people who are just service oriented. They don't even like what you did there. It's just
Right.
job. It's just what I do. It's not good or bad. Whatever. You don't need to categorize it. It's just it is, and
Yep.
it's a way out. That somehow
Absolutely.
makes me leap to these billionaires and they're complaining about paying too much taxes and stuff like that. I want to go to them and say, why would you need to pay taxes? You have 7 homes. There are people that don't live in any home. They're on concrete. Why would
Right.
you even need to have somebody make you pay money? You should be volunteer, that
Yeah,
kind of
you
thing.
should volunteer it away.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. It's
Shouldn't
just
need
so,
any kind of push
yeah.
to
There's
pay your fair share.
There's
Anyway,
no doubt about it. Well,
yeah.
what I'm affirming today, and I want to say hi to Joe and Carl and Teresa and Miracle and Christine and many people that are tuning in. And Joe's tuning in from Sedona. He said he just found us and he's enjoying the show, and we really appreciate it. And all the information as far as the link to the Karma Factor under Tom Lane's website, you can find that.
I
We
can
have
tell them to.
the Helen Hudson Foundation.org.
Right.
Know more about that. I mean, there's so much going on with this one man's life. And then, of course, the karma factor, it's hysterical for me. I'm just smiling so big because I'm like, man, you're living the karma factor. You are living it. You are really out there making a difference. And my heart is so touched having you
Oh,
on the show today.
oh,
And
wow.
I envision that, and I'm sure Dia envisioned this too, because she knows me very well. We have a future of some kind together, you and
Yes,
I.
I know a little bit
Um,
about that.
I'm feeling something,
Yep.
and there's a higher plan. But
Yeah.
whatever, I'm really looking forward to getting to know you better. And
Yes.
everybody, I want to thank you for tuning in and do order the book. It's on Kindle, Amazon, through Tom Lane, his website, um,
The website just is thomaslane.com. Very simple.
thomaslane.com. Very simple, and we also put it in the comments there, so you can just click on and HelenHudsonFoundation.org.
Correct.
And of course, for those of you that don't know me, I'm TempleHayes.com. I'm Temple Hayes. And my website is .com. Tom, any last words you'd like to
Oh no,
say
it's
or
just
anything?
I got the
I've
big
had so
smile.
much fun being with you
It's
today.
really fun. It was really meaningful. I'll go away and think about this and that and whatever, and maybe something will pop out. But yeah, there's more work to be done and more play.
Yep,
I like to think of things as play. In a recording studio, you don't hit the work button, you hit the play button. So
exactly.
you can,
Exactly. Good point. Well,
yeah,
I look forward to seeing the copy of your mom's work,
I will
and
send you one.
I just I thank you, and let Dia know next time you want to be on the show, or if something new is
Yeah,
developing.
I will.
I'd really be honored to have you.
Yeah, and send me whatever, that came out of this that I can think about just what you were talking about. I have a democracy core. I'm going
Okay,
to go past the time. Um,
it's all right.
yeah,
We're in charge.
okay. Well, I just that idea that people do not understand democracy. They don't
Yeah.
understand the Constitution. So I had this concept of kids can instead of the Peace Corps, they could join a democracy corps, go out
Yes.
and start, having town hall meetings to go over what the Constitution means or what the Declaration, all
That's
this stuff.
great.
Wouldn't
It's
that
so
be
cool.
wonderful?
Yeah, it would
But
be
that's
wonderful.
spinning off your idea of which I
Well,
adore.
let's have a brainstorming
Okay.
conversation, shall we?
Okay.
I would love that. I'm Temple Hayes at gmail.com.
Yep.
Could you just write me and then we can stay in touch?
Okay. Sounds good.
What a gift you are, sir.
And you, Major, thank you
What
so
a
much.
gift. Until next time, thank
Okay.
you, everyone.
Take care.
Appreciate it. If you've enjoyed the show today, please forward and share it with others. And thank you for continuing to support this work. And very, very, very grateful.